thank our supporters. The Center of Health doTERRA International offers the perfect preppers first aid kit, a family physician kit, a 10-bottle assortment of pure, therapeutic-grade essential oils to help you deal with whatever life throws at you. Perfect for bug-out bags. And for all your essential oils and healthcare products, please visit their online store at essentialnewparadigm.info by clicking on the doTERRA banner located at the bottom of the Maxis Assist homepage. And we would like to thank Freedom Law School. Learn to live free today with education and support from Freedom Law School. Visit livefreedomnow.org and sign up for your free Freedom package.
That's livefreenow.org.
Oh, Live Free Now. Well, that's a new one to me. Okay. Livefreenow.org and sign up for your free Freedom education package to get the IRS and other government tyrants off your back. All right. Now, today's show is going to be involving using digital forensic investigation to find the truth. Our guest is Ed Opperman, president of Opperman Investigations, a private detective agency that is also president of Accurate Information Recovery, a computer and cell phone forensics institution. Ed has worked in the investigation field since the early 1980s, first as an information broker and later in the counter-electronic surveillance. In 2003, Ed teamed up in the founding fathers, cell phone forensics, and digital data recovery. Ed soon made a name for himself in this area and become a leader provider of this type of digital forensic investigation. Ed is also a host of a weekly radio show called The Opperman Report. And for our show today, we have Operation Terra, the panel member. We have Brian, our producer. We have Mobo Earth as a panel member. We also have Robert Price, Terry Ombach, and myself as the host. Welcome, folks. Thank you for coming today. So?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you here. Ed, if you'd like to go ahead and start, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I would like to make one correction. You said that Accurate Information Recovery was an institution. What I meant to put there was that I was committed to an institution briefly, and but they let me out, so don't worry, we're okay now. I'm a private investigator. Been a PI on and off since the 80s, even a little bit before that. And then, we got into digital forensics, and we got into did some employment screening there for a while. And so we're doing all of that. Got involved in some death penalty cases, death penalty qualified. I was involved in 2 congressional hearings, and 1 congressional investigation, and then the hearing. Involving both of them were involving Secret Service misbehavior. Let's see. Now I got the radio show, Opperman Report. It's live Friday nights. You can catch it on Spreaker and iHeart and TuneIn, and it's also on the Awake Network. It's on FPRN. We play on FPRN every morning, Monday to Friday. They play the replay, and they play the replays all over on Late Night in the Midlands plays it. A whole bunch of stations, Cave Radio and Wolf Spirit Radio and PSN Radio, and who's those guys? Talk Superstation. And we also set up a new members section on the Opperman Report website, where we have a members-only podcast, and we do special investigations and special reports and stories, and it's available only to members who subscribe.
So who are some of the latest people you've
interviewed? I tell you, I'm really excited about a lot of these recent interviews coming up. I'm interviewing a guy. No one's interviewed this guy before. And when he was in the military, there was a murder plot against him by the Temple of Set, which is that satanic cult that's used to be run by Colonel Michael Aquino, who was the first satanic chaplain in the U.S. military. And so this guy's going to be telling his story. That's going into the members section coming up. I'm interviewing him on Thursday. No one's talked to this guy before, so I'm really excited about that. You know what? I don't, off the top of my head, I don't remember his name, to tell you the truth. Okay, but he's coming on. But he doesn't have a famous name or anything like that. And then Timothy Holmseth, I'm interviewing him about his investigation and work into the Haley Cummings case and the Casey Anthony case down there in Florida. And he's actually come up with a child pornography recording of this little girl, the Cummings girl, who's been, and the video is after she disappeared. So that's some breaking information coming out there. I'm working on a story about the prison break, but the guest is turning out to be unreliable. Her husband or boyfriend is a prisoner up there in that prison up there in Dannemora, the Clinton Correctional Facility. And he has a lawsuit against the prison because they beat the crap out of this guy. So she's been feeding me information for the past couple of weeks, and she's been saying all along that there's no way that these guys tunneled out of that prison, that they were walked out of there by the guards. And what I'm hearing also, too, is that section where these guys have been held, that minimum security section. Because Dannemora prison, this is a tough prison. This is not a joke. They're making it out on TV like it's some kind of a playground over there. This is a very serious prison. But these guys were held in this minimum security wing where they were getting all kinds of stuff brought in. They were wearing their own clothes, and they were bringing in food and cooking in their cells. All this kind of activity. And what I'm being told is that the people that are in that section, these are all the gang leaders. These are all the organized crime guys. These are all the drug dealers and stuff that are involved in all the corruption in the prison. These are the guys that are working for the guards. So you got these guys, supposedly, they tunnel out of this prison, which is unbelievable on so many levels. I guess when you're watching TV, you think this kind of thing is possible. But once I've been in these prisons. I've been up there. Okay, years ago, not recently. But I've been up in those prisons, man. There's no way you're tunneling out of these prisons. It's ridiculous. So she thinks they were walked out. And now we're hearing that after they got out, they had help from the guards to get out. But then even after they were out, when they were hanging out, they were hiding out in one of these hunting cabins up there. The hunting cabin was owned by guards from that prison. So it seems like I think we'll get the truth will come out. Yeah, oh yeah, that story is yeah, the story is unbelievable from beginning to end.
All stories pretty much, that come through the news pretty much unbelievable. You got that for time, but we won't go that far at this point. So tell us a little bit about your interview with Richard Lambert. Some others might not be familiar with who that is. If you could give us a little background on him and the interview you did with him.
You know what? I'm really proud of that interview. Richard Lambert was the FBI agent in charge of the anthrax investigation. People might remember that right after September 11th, that incident. Right. It's interesting because even before these people started receiving these anthrax letters in the mail, they were on Cipro. Exactly. They pumped up the whole Senate and the Congress and the Supreme Court with this drug Cipro. And if you look up, anybody can Google the side effects of Cipro. And, it's diarrhea and nausea and chest pains, stomach pains, all this stuff. And then it's confusion, hallucinations, nightmares, you can't sleep, suicide. The side effects, half of them were nuts taking this drug. If those are the side effects, you got to figure like 10% of the whole Congress was on the toilet during all this time, and the other 10% were having nightmares, weren't sleeping all night, having hallucinations during the day. It was just unbelievable. So Richard Lambert is a high level. This guy was in charge of this investigation, the anthrax investigation. So we talked off the air a bit. He filed his lawsuit against the FBI, and his stated reasons for filing this lawsuit is that he can no longer find employment because after he retired from the FBI, he went to work for security, doing security for the Department of Energy at a nuclear power plant. And because while he was there as the head of security for this nuclear power plant, he had contact with the FBI. And there's these lobbying laws that once you retire from the FBI, you're not allowed to have contact back with the FBI for a certain period of time, to prevent, lobbying. If you want to sell them equipment and stuff like that, they don't want you to do that because of corruption. But the idea that the head of security for Department of Energy at a nuclear power plant is never allowed to call the FBI and confer with the FBI is just ridiculous. So they actually went to his offices over there, and they got him fired. And then they raided his office, at this DOE office over there, and went through all his files and went, left with boxes and stuff. Now he's saying that the real reason why they targeted him, and I agree with him, is because during the anthrax investigation, after this guy, I think his name was Ivins, committed suicide. He was one of the main suspects. The whole story with Ivins is interesting to begin with because he got involved in this anthrax. He became a suspect because he was first working for the FBI. They had to find experts that knew about anthrax and could look at the envelopes and find out and study the anthrax in these envelopes. So they found this guy Ivins. He's working for the FBI. Now the FBI is looking for suspects, and who do they turn? They turn on the guy they hired and say, well, you're a suspect now because you have access to all this stuff and you know all about it. Well, yeah, I know about it. You hired me. Okay. So Ivins actually commits suicide. Yeah. The whole anthrax case is unbelievable, man. It's totally underreported.
I've never heard, I knew about the letters from the middle of the anthrax, that kind of stuff, but other than that, I never heard about any type of lawsuits or people losing jobs or having to sue because they can't get jobs. I mean, this is pretty much new stuff for me as well.
Dude,
So I find it kind of interesting.
well, wait till you hear this, because they all sued.
Everybody was on sick road?
No, not them. No, they're still confused, so they're not suing anybody. But all the suspects, because this other guy, I think his name is Halbert, who was like A.J. Weberman targeted. You know who A.J. Weberman is, right? He's the guy from the Jewish Defense Organization, and he wrote the book Coup d'etat in America. He's the one that found the three tramps, and published them in his book way back in the 70s, 1977. He was one of the yippies with me back in the 70s. So A.J. Weberman targeted this guy, I think his name is Halbert, he's like a South African, he's a white supremacist type of guy. Those are the accusations A.J. was making against him. I'm not sure if he is or not, because I know A.J. tends to go overboard. But he was one of the FBI suspects, because he also had access to all this stuff. But he sued the FBI and got $5 million. Ivins, after his suicide, his family sues the FBI. I think they got $2 million. So now we got this guy, Richard Lambert, who's a serious guy. This is a real guy, man. He worked for the FBI for 30 years, no disciplinary, nothing. He's a lawyer. He works at a college. He's a professor. Head of security for the Department of Energy. He's a real guy. Now he's suing the FBI. Now, my perspective, my opinion, is that anybody who has inside information on this case and sues the FBI is going to get a settlement, because the FBI does not want this case going to trial and all this dirt that's coming out. Now, Lambert put a little bit of his information out into his lawsuit, and you can look it up online. You can find it. And a couple of things that really strike out at you is this business that he had 20 FBI agents working for him, investigating this anthrax case. And in some areas, they did a really good job. They were actually able to trace these letters back to the specific mailboxes where they were mailed from by going to each box and testing each box for residue of anthrax. Incredible amount of legwork to pull that off. But out of the 20 investigators that he was assigned to his case, only 8 of them had prior investigation experience. The other 12 came out of the FBI academy, and this was their first case.
So the FBI investigating the FBI?
No, these were these were FBI agents investigating anthrax, but the only agents, the only agents he could get requisitioned to him for this biggest investigation in the country at the time. Just think, remember how everyone was afraid to go to the post office?
Right.
Yeah.
So for their lack of experience, for the most part, they were having to do a lot of guesswork.
Well, yeah, he had a bunch of kids. Even though these were kids right out of the academy that have probably went to Harvard and Yale. These were qualified guys in there, but they didn't have the investigation experience. Unless some of them were prior cops. But he was very frustrated by that. That he only had 8 guys that he could really count on to do this investigation for him.
We'll be talking to him again and getting another update.
You know what? I don't think he has any motivation to at this point. I think he has his lawsuit, and I think he's going to win. I think they're going to settle that lawsuit, and all this information we got the information that he put out so far, okay? But I don't think this guy is a whistleblower. That he still defends the FBI. This is a true believer. This is a real guy who believes in the FBI. He sweats in blue, you know. But wears a gray suit still, I'm sure, to bed, you know. You know, so he's God and country, man. He's a straight guy. But he got screwed. You know, they turned on him. He wrote this whistleblower memo that 60 Minutes got a hold of it. They put on a 60 Minutes show, and they got that through the FBI. They're not from him. They got it from the other side. And then they came and they went after his career after he left, and it was retaliation. There's no doubt in my mind over that. But another couple of things during this investigation is that at that time they didn't have a whole plethora of these scientists who were experts on anthrax. And a couple of them that he was able to scrounge up right in the middle of this investigation, these two guys were sent to Israel to take a language class and learn how to speak Arabic. So, yeah, the point I'm trying to make is the anthrax investigation was sabotaged from the very beginning from the big shots at the FBI. And I had to treat this guy with kid gloves on the air. So if you listen to us, you know, I was really easy on him the first 30 minutes. But if you hear at the end, when I'm asking him questions, I frame these questions. He could not deny what we were getting at. And you can kind of hear him sighing, like, you know. And this guy's a lawyer. He's used to being cross-examined and stuff like that. But I think I really did a good job with him. And another thing he revealed, too, is that Dick Cheney was in daily telephone contact with him trying to get updates on the investigation. And his theory that he says in public on the radio is that he believes that the investigation was sabotaged, not because, and I even said to him, I says, hey, you know, they passed the Patriot Act while this was going on. Everyone was being doped up by SIP show. He goes, yeah, you're right. You know, I says, wouldn't that be a motivation? Well, yeah, yeah. You know, I says, yeah, I guess it would, you know. But interesting to me is that Dick Cheney was so interested on who was behind it. Now, is that because Dick Cheney was behind it and he wanted to know whether and how the investigation was going? Or is that because Dick Cheney didn't know who was behind it and was concerned for his own position there? So,
possibly from all the stuff that we heard suspicious about him during 9/11 and all this happening right afterwards, could it have been, we know that drills were going on that day, so could this have been another part of a drill maybe, or like you said, did he have something to do with it, or maybe he didn't have anything to do with it and it made him nervous in case it interfered or favored.
Or that one day he was going to open up his mailbox and get a dose, you know?
That's possible.
Yeah, because a couple of things is real quick is that the anthrax letters were mailed out a few days after 9/11, but there was all stuff in there about jihad and Allah's great and all this kind of crap, and it was two different versions of anthrax. The first set of letters had a crappy version of anthrax. And the second group of letters had this really sophisticated aerial that as soon as you opened up, it was microscopic, and it would go up in the, yeah.
Supposedly came from a base just north of Virginia, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, they both of these versions of anthrax, although one was crappy and thicker and brown, and one was really fancy and white and thin, both came from the same cow, is how he goes into a whole explanation about how it's traced back to the same cow that had the anthrax. Which kind of lost me. But it's the same strain of anthrax. It's just how it was processed was much more sophisticated. The second version around was much more sophisticated. Now, one little thing here, too, that doesn't get too reported in the anthrax story, which is really why I became interested in it and to begin with, is that the whole story about Robert Stevens, who was down in Florida, who worked in his News of the World building, where they have the National Enquirer and all that kind of stuff. He was the first anthrax victim. Right. He was the first.
I always wondered, why would anybody want to spend anthrax Bush guy? Who is this guy?
And I asked Richard Lambert that, and he says, you know what? I says, why would they? Yeah, I know why. But I said, why would they send it down to that building over there? And he goes, you know what? He said, I don't know. That's a good question, you know. And the rumor is that in that building, and I've talked to some other people about it. Some people agree with me. Some people disagree with me. Is that picture of George W. Bush, where when he was in college, he was standing up on the bar with his pants down, taking a piss, and that picture existed in that building. Okay. So now, after they found anthrax in that building, the building was sealed up. That building was sold for $40,000. And if you Google the anthrax, News of the World building in Florida, you'll see how big that building is. It's the size of it's a huge office building. It's the size of like one of those small Wyndham hotels, that they got around all over the place. The air conditioners on top are worth $100,000 all by themselves. But they sold this building for $40,000. And who did they sell it to? They sold it to a real estate developer who then leased it back to Rudy Giuliani. Because, yes, Rudy Giuliani. Because Rudy Giuliani had formed a company that was super duper anthrax cleaner-upper guys who could go into any building with anthrax in it and clean it up. They showed how they taped the windows up and pumping this chemical in there to get rid of this anthrax. And so they sold it to this investor, and then he leased it back to Rudy Giuliani and his super duper anthrax, I think it was called BioCare or something like that, his anthrax cleaner up company. And so if that picture was in there of George W. Bush taking a piss up on a bar, which I've heard exists, I interviewed the guy that wrote that book about Bush. I forget what it's called now. Bush, maybe. I don't know. He was one of the big guys. And I talked to him about it. He thought that whole story about the Bush taking a piss on the bar was a creation by Karl Rove in order to hide Bush's DUI and other stuff that is true about Bush. So it's up for debate.
Before we continue, I wanted to recognize our panelists once again. We have Art Olivier, is that how it's pronounced? Yeah. From Operation Choice. We have Nova Earth with us, Hello Nova. Hello. We have Young the Christ with us. And then we have, And then we have Terry. And I wanted to ask our panelists, do you have any questions so far for our test?
The idea on that,
Yeah.
I know it's a fit. Who was interviewing? Somebody that was, that he put a bid out on?
Yeah. The guest I'm interviewing is just a regular guy. He works now in a factory. And when he was in the service, there was an assassination plot against this guy by the Temple of Set.
The Temple of Borrachino, he was involved in over at the studio.
Right.
They had a daycare facility there, and he would take the kids, and they would molest them during the day while they were sent there. And of course, he was a member of the Church of Satan, and then he wrote Stop the Mind War or something like that. He co-authored that book while he was working for the Army. And he was in the psychological operations for this, which is affiliated with the civil U.S. Army Civil Department. So when you hear of PSYOPs in the Army, it's not for PSYOPs against foreign enemies. It's actually for America.
Well, yeah, the Presidio Daycare, there was all kinds of allegations of the Presidio Daycare Center was molesting kids. And it was a huge scandal. And there was an arrest of a school teacher who was giving sexually transmitted diseases to these kids. But, that was investigated, again, by Rudy Giuliani. Was sent to investigate this. And he gave Aquino a clean bill of health and said that Aquino was not guilty in that case. Aquino's tried to sue. Oh, well, that got to be true, right? Yes, but Aquino's actually sued all over the place trying to get his name removed from the investigation to try and even say that he wasn't even investigated. But if you look into the Franklin cover-up and all those kind of stories, they name Aquino. People describe the inside of his home over there in San Francisco. So, yeah.
Well, I would say the tangled web we weave, but it keeps coming back to the same people over and over again.
Yeah.
Actually, I would be more shocked if you had told me the building was real.
When you start to get onto a specific case, Ed, is there anything that you really start to look for anything standing out in particular?
What do you mean, like on the for the radio show, or for when I'm investigating for a job?
Well, I mean, when you're trying to look for anomalies in a story in particular that you're investigating.
No, I just use common sense. You know, hey, does this make sense? Does it not make sense? You know, I try and go into things without any kind of preconceived notions. You know, you got your suspicions, you know, of course, but I try and go in, you know, with an open mind and just review all the facts first. You know, talk to everybody, you know, and see what comes up, and then just take it step by step.
If we have no other questions, we'll just move on to our next topic. You're following the Jeffrey Epstein case, is that correct?
Yeah, and you know, it all fits in again.
Can you give people like me who haven't heard anything about this case a little background about it first, and then tell us what you found out?
Well, it's a long story. The Jeffrey Epstein case is a long story. Jeffrey Epstein, you know, I've told this. I think I told the whole story on the Max Resistance Roundtable the last time I was on. I think I went into great detail in this. Did I? You remember?
Unfortunately, I do not remember.
Okay. Well, Epstein is an interesting character. Okay, he comes into public view because he's flying Bill Clinton around on his private 747 to Africa for a conference about AIDS. Who else is on that plane? Chris Tucker. Who else is on the plane? Kevin Spacey. Yeah. We did talk about this, right?
Now it's all coming back.
Okay, good. So, yeah, this Epstein guy is a billionaire, you know. He has his own private island down in the Virgin Islands. He has this big mansion down in Palm Beach, big mansion, a ranch in New Mexico, the largest townhouse in Manhattan. One of the most expensive pieces of property in Manhattan these guys got. So he's flying Clinton around on his plane, and people say, well, who's this guy, Jeffrey Epstein? Well, who's this guy? Where does he come from? What's his story? Why is he, you know, he's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. He's a member of the Trilateral Commission. Vanity Fair does an article about him. They briefly touch on these parties going on at his house where he's got these little hookers at his party of these Eastern European prostitutes mingling among New York's elite, you know, but they played it down. They interviewed Trump about him, Donald Trump, who's running for the presidency of the United States of America, okay? They interview him, and he's bellowing into the phone, Jeff Epstein's a great guy. And they say he likes women as much as I do. And he likes them on the young side. That's what Trump is saying about Jeffrey Epstein. Now, how this guy's getting away? This guy's getting away with murder, Trump. So Epstein, he's down there in Palm Beach. And his butler reports to the police that he has 3 young girls, 12, 13-year-old girls, coming to his home there every day to give him massages. And he's molesting these girls, you know. He had hired this other teenage girl who was like a high school kid to troll the middle school to lure these little girls to give this billionaire, you know, massages. He bought one of them a car, all kind of stuff like that. So one of the parents found out, and they reported it to the cops down there in Palm Beach. The Palm Beach cops actually did a very thorough investigation. They had cameras. They went through his trash. They visited the homes of, I think, about 15 of these young girls. Went to the homes, knocked on the door. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you know, we have to talk to you about your little 15-year-old daughter. You know, she's the victim of this pedophile, this predator. You know, they sit around the dining. You can read all this. The affidavit, probable cause affidavit. It's online. You can find it in the Smoking Gun. and they're sitting around the dining table saying, your daughter is involved with this guy. He's molesting your daughter. The kids are denying it. No, just imagine if that's your kid and cops show up at your door at dinner time, and now your kid's denying it. And then the next day the kid confesses to the parents. They call the cops back. While the cops are running around investigating all this, all the kids are telling the exact same story, by the way, that they were let in through the kitchen entrance. They would go up this staircase. There's nude pictures of 12, 13, 14-year-old girls, photographs all over the house in frames. So anybody who walked into that house was in witness of child pornography. They should all be in prison. In the probable cause affidavit, they talk about how he had recording equipment in there for the purpose of blackmail. So.
And this stuff never comes up when discussing who's going to be electoral candidates.
Yeah, and it gets a little further because one of the victims, this girl Veronica Roberts, or Virginia Roberts, I always get her name wrong because my daughter's name is Victoria, so I'm trying to avoid Victoria and I always screw it up. Her name is Virginia Roberts. She actually worked for Donald Trump, okay, down there at the Palm Beach country club down there. I forget the name, Mar-a-Lago. There's a discrepancy whether she worked at the coat check or she worked in the women's locker room as a towel girl in there. But either way, she was underage working in there. Her father works down there in the maintenance department. Now he owns a horse ranch. So who was partying down there at the same time when this little girl was working down there was Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein. That's where they would meet and spend extended time down at Mar-a-Lago, Trump's Mar-a-Lago. How this does not get, everyone's involved in this thing. Yeah. Well, I tell you, the Prince Andrew, he's up into this thing in his neck. There's actually a picture of him with this girl, Virginia Roberts, when she's 17 years old. But Virginia Roberts, by the way, too, this lawsuit, this litigation that's going on down, because there was a conviction. Let's go back to this, okay? Epstein was convicted. They tried to make an arrest on him. He should have been doing 40 years. But he was able to, he hired these private investigators. He hired Roy Black, who defended the Kennedy rapist. He invited Jerry Lefcourt, who is an old-time yippie lawyer. He was Abby Hoffman's lawyer. He's a Fourth Amendment lawyer. He's a really good... I knew him. I met Jeffrey Lefcourt several times back in the 70s and 80s. But now he's working for these guys. He's a very, very good lawyer. But he's changed. Alan Dershowitz and Kenneth Starr and a couple other guys, too, he had working for him down there. So Roy Black's private investigator started going around talking to these little girls and trying to get their story straight and what they were going to say to the cops and stuff. And even it was like a Keystone Comedy at some points where, the cops go and interview a girl and they say, well, did anybody talk to you? She says, oh, yeah, this private investigator talked to me. Here's his card. Because these are little kids, And then, oh, well, did they tell you? They said, no, but they gave me a car. They're letting me drive this rental car now. Did anybody tell you what to say? Oh, no, but they gave me a car. It was just bizarre. So they're trying to get a case against this guy Epstein, and the federal investigators get involved. I guess because he's moving these kids across state lines and stuff, So the U.S. District Attorney for the Southern District, who's the kind of prosecutor that is equal to when Giuliani was the U.S. District Attorney for the Northern District in New York. Same level of prosecutor, same level of power, prestige. When he was trying to get a case against Epstein, Epstein's private investigators and Epstein's lawyers started investigating him and started trying to dig up dirt on him and started going to his bosses. Jeb Bush was one of them, and trying to put pressure on his office. Investigated people in his office, went to their neighbors, went to their homes. He wrote a 3-page letter about this, and he was under investigation by the defendant, complaining about this. So you can't find that letter online anymore either. It got removed. The response to it is still up, but the letter itself is gone. I can't find it online anymore. Now, I worked back in the 80s. Some of the biggest New York City organized crime cases that there was that Rudy Giuliani was prosecuting. And the idea that we would ever, in our right minds, come up with a plan that we were going to investigate Giuliani and put pressure on him and report him to his bosses and to his neighbors. You know, they would have kicked the living crap out of me if I would have came up with an idea like that with these guys. And these are some of the toughest mafia guys that are in history. Okay, they would not dream of doing this, but Jeffrey Epstein and Kenneth Starr and Dershowitz and all these guys, that's what they did, man. They went after the prosecutor. So the feds dropped the case down to the state. And the deal they negotiated was Epstein was going to get 18 months in a county jail, the same county jail that he had donated $95,000 to the sheriff's department to stay in his jail. So now he takes the deal, he's going to get 18 months. Does he do 18 months? He doesn't do 18 months. He does 13 months. Does he do 13 months? He doesn't do 13 months. He does 13 months of nights. He's out during the day on work release, and he sleeps in jail 6 nights a week. Okay? In, by the way, a private jail where they were doing construction down there. So he's sitting in a private wing of the jail where he's the only prisoner in there, all by himself. Don't you love it?
But somebody who gets caught with a small bit of pot will roast in jail for years.
So true, and I'm sure in that same jail there were guys doing several years for pot, 5-year sentences and stuff just for small.
Before the topic, Terry had a question. Go ahead, Terry.
We're happening to be on the Clintons in the years of the Clintons in Arkansas and his years as governor, and I'd kind of like to ask you, have you ever gone into or investigated Hillary Clinton's involvement with the Children's Defense Fund and the connection between that and the murder of Vince Foster?
No, just the usual stuff that everybody sees on the internet. I have no special knowledge or any kind of research that I've done beyond anything that's available to anybody in the public. But I'm familiar with what you're talking about.
We might want to talk later. I have some stuff you might want to look at.
Okay, great. I'm always, I want to do more stuff on the whole Clinton body count. And I did some pretty good stuff on Mena Airport. I had Dennis Hopsicker, Daniel Hopsicker, the Mad Cow Morning News guy who lived over at Barry Seal's house. After Barry Seal died, he moved in with a widow and pretty much raised his son. And he wrote those books about Barry and the boys. And he came out with that picture, the first picture of Operation 40, those guys at that nightclub in Miami with all the Frank Sturgis and all those guys. So I talked to them.
With all this investigation that you've done, because that's what you do, you're an investigator, what's the biggest thing that you're running into? When you're hitting your head against the wall, what's the biggest wall you're hitting?
That's a good question. I don't know if I talked about this the last time I was on the show, but one of my clients was Shirley Tripp, who was the that prostitute up in Alaska that had the relationship with Todd Palin, and then it also turned out too that while she was up there in Alaska, she that Secret Service agent was also one of her clients, the one that was down there in Colombia and didn't want to pay his bill down there. He did the same thing to Shirley Tripp. He didn't pay her either, and he ripped her off as well. But he got away with it up there in Alaska. And so with that case, we ran into a lot of stuff, man. They broke into my mail. They broke into my house. They broke into my office. They loosened the lugs on my car. There's all kinds of stuff like that. But even still, stuff like, even though we got the judge to order them to release computers and laptops and USB drives and stuff to us, the Sheriff's Department still destroyed evidence that was in the evidence locker. They lied about examining the evidence and later on admitted that they lied about examining. You guys haven't heard this story at all because it's not in the press. It's never been reported. Very little has been the stuff I talk about. I talk about it. It's a little bit has been reported in the Inquirer. Nick Broomfield reported on it a little tiny bit. He could have done way more. But it's all been covered up in the news. It was part of a congressional investigation. It's in the congressional record that all of Shirley Tripp's accusations against that Secret Service agent came out to be founded. So I don't know what to tell you. So there's all of that. Other stuff, having my mail tampered with and stuff like that. The the thing about how you really can't all the stuff we're reporting about Trump, how that doesn't get out in the media as much as we try to. They can still stifle it. Stuff that happened during the Tiger Woods case that never made it to the media. There's a lot. One of the girls that they came out with that was in the media was one of these girls Tiger Woods was with was his 16-year-old babysitter that he wound up with. You never hear about that. Just Tiger Woods cheating on his wife. You never hear about the thing about the kid, the babysitter. Yeah. A lot of stuff gets covered up. Then even in these big stories, like with the Charlie Sheen case, everyone knows, Charlie Sheen, he was with this prostitute or this escort in Trump Plaza, by the way, again, Donald Trump's hotel. A lot of stuff goes on in Trump Plaza, guys, I can tell you. So he's in there. The people know, and then he got caught with this escort. But people don't know that when the cops showed up at the door there, first of all, he was already on probation for attacking his wife. He pled guilty to attacking his wife with a knife on Thanksgiving or Christmas Eve. As any one of us, if we have a second offense while we're on probation, you're going to jail. But the cops come to the Plaza Hotel there because this girl's hiding in the bathroom. Charlie Sheen opens the door. He's naked and covered in blood. That's not reported. Have you heard that? Yeah. I know. It's public information. It's in the police reports, but it doesn't get reported. Charlie Sheen's just a humorous guy, just a funny guy there, pulling knives on one wife, attacking another little girl who weighs like 90 pounds, in a hotel room. Another one of his wives gets shot in the butt, unexplainably. Cars going off of cliffs. What the hell's going on with this guy? But he goes on Alex Jones. Everybody thinks he's cool.
Speaking of other uncool people, well, not really uncool, but I heard you got to speak with St. John Hunt recently.
Yeah, and I got a little grief for that because people thought I was too nice to him. But I like him. I like St. John Hunt.
For those of you who are listening and don't know, St. John Hunt is the son of CIA Watergate partner Hugh Howard Hunt, who was part of the plumbers who admitted openly on his deathbed that he was a part of a plot to kill JFK, which of course everybody knows is one of the hugest conspiracies of all time in the U.S.
Yeah, and even though, the videotape is there, the audio, if you go to St. John Hunt's website, you can listen to the audio tape of E. Howard Hunt admitting his involvement. He knew about the plot, and he pretty much lays it all out, the details. It all makes pretty good sense to me. It fits in also, too, with what I was told by Mayor Jim Rothstein, who was NYPD retired detective, who was involved in the whole Son of Sam investigation, the Process Church investigation in New York City. And he arrested Frank Sturgis when Frank Sturgis was on his way to assassinate Marita Lorenz right before she was about to testify before the church committee. And he arrested Frank Sturgis, and he interrogated Frank Sturgis. And Frank Sturgis admitted to him that he was one of the shooters. And Hunt points at Sturgis as being one of the shooters as well. So that all fits. Everyone spent their whole, childhood looking into JFK, and, Dick Gregory and all that stuff, and looking into the JFK assassination. And, I knew Weberman, when he wrote the book. So it was kind of funny, too, because the first time I was talking to Hunt, he said that the first time he heard about that his father might have been involved in JFK was the pictures that was in A.J. Weberman's book. And I said, yeah, that's what I first heard, too. And I knew Weberman. So, but I liked Hunt, and I don't like his dad. His dad killed Che Guevara. His dad, was involved in all these overthrows and stuff like that. Involved in a war. Yeah. But Hunt seems like a cool guy. Yeah. I liked him.
So I also heard you spoke with Courtney Love.
Yeah, I spoke to him a couple of times. Yeah. I interviewed him about a year ago. And he mentioned at the time that Courtney Love was also, by the way, she went to the Presidio Middle School. Okay? And we've been doing some work on that, and we found out that she also was possibly at the Presidio daycare centers as well. Now,
is that where
Aquino.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, because that's where Colonel Aquino was accused of molesting all those kids at the Presidio Daycare Center. So she was at the Presidio Middle School, but we also think she may have been at the Presidio Daycare Center. So I do another interview with good old Hank Harrison, who is a fascinating guy. Even if this guy wasn't Courtney Love's father, this guy he was with the Grateful Dead. He knew guys from the Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. He knew Owsley. You know, this guy was knee deep in all this stuff. You know, the whole historic stuff.
Yeah, I never knew Courtney. He's actually Courtney's father, yes?
Oh yeah, he lost custody at 5 years old because the mother alleged that he gave Courtney Love LSD when she was 5. But the thing is that he passed the polygraph saying that he did. I kind of think that I'm cool enough with Hank right now that if I think if he did, he'd say to me off the air, yeah, I did it, come on. And he'd kind of tell me, and I kind of believe him on that. He took a polygraph. I know you can beat a polygraph, but I kind of believe him on that. So he lost custody of Courtney, and her mother had her going from one cult to another, these weird, bizarre, all kinds of craziness, man. From one thing after another, her mother had her involved in. And then he got back involved with her when she was like 12, 13 years old. And he took her to Ireland and stuff like that. He bailed her out of juvenile detention. So I had John Potash, who wrote the book about the FBI's war on Tupac Shakur. And he wrote the book called Drugs Used as a Weapon Against Us. And he's a fascinating guy. You guys should get him on. He's a great guest right now. He's really hot. John Potash, Potash. And you guys, side note real fast, I'll go real fast, but people don't realize Tupac Shakur's connections to Black Panther royalty. Tupac Shakur, his mother was Assata Shakur. His father is doing 60 years right now. His stepfather is doing 60 years as part of the Brinks robbery with the Republic of New Africa, that big Brinks robbery back in the 80s. So Tupac Shakur is related to and connected with Black Panther royalty, man, like the original, big shots. Yeah.
He went to private school, if I remember correctly. He took acting lessons and singing lessons. There was an old video of him released while he was still in high school, or it might have been some type of technical college afterwards. A music video that him and the girl student put together. So most people think that he's just a star from the inner city. Not necessarily true.
Right, because also too, he was part of Digital Underground. He was one of those guys singing "Do the Humpty Hump" with the funny nose and the glasses. But anyway, so John Potash is really hooked in with these Black Panthers, and he was writing a book called Drugs Used as a Weapons Against Us, about how the FBI pumped and the CIA pumped drugs into, leftist groups and stuff like that to get us hooked on drugs. So I hooked him up with Hank Harrison, because he wanted to talk about Courtney Love and, all that kind of stuff, because he had heard the story about how Courtney Love showed up in Ireland with 10,000 hits of LSD. So he interviews Hank Harrison, this is way off the air, months ago. And so when I was interviewing Hank Harrison for the members section on the OperaReport.com, I text John Potash on Facebook, and I say, hey, bro, we're plugging your book. It's hey, how are you, right? That kind of thing. And he comes back and he says, oh, who you talking to? I says, Hank Harrison. I'm talking to Hank. We're plugging your book. We're talking about you right now. So he goes, oh, can I call in? I said, yeah, sure, call in. I said, he says, I want to ask a question. So this is where we get this groundbreaking news. He calls in, and he starts asking Hank Harrison, hey, Hank, what about the Courtney Love's connection to this guy? And he's mentioning this name. The guy's name was Leary. The last name was Leary. So they're going on about it. And I says, well, who is this guy? Not Timothy Leary, different Leary. No, not Dennis Leary, no. It's an unknown guy. The guy's a CIA agent. And I says, well, who's the guy? He says, well, and they both say, he's CIA. And I says, so it comes out that Courtney Love, at 15 years old, had a romantic relationship with a CIA agent, an adult CIA agent, who was one of Hank Harrison's best friends. And Hank Harrison has a letter from this guy where the guy admits to being CIA. So Courtney Love was connected with CIA, handing out LSD in Ireland. Also, too, they were at some Vietnamese refugee camp over there in Ireland that was run by the CIA. So she was knee-deep with CIA. And also, too, Hank Harrison also reveals in that interview that Courtney Love was involved in making in child sex trafficking, making children available to powerful businessmen, both boys and girls, for sexual activity. And where does she turn up? On Jeffrey Epstein's plane. She's on the flight manifest for Jeffrey Epstein's plane as well. So it all fits. It all comes together. Now we come full circle. Courtney Love is on the matter, along with, by the way, the president of Israel, the president of Colombia. You got to look at the list, the names. My God, Dershowitz, the president of Harvard. Forget it. Yeah. Now, the one thing that happened with going back to Epstein for a second, too, because when it came out, the allegations of this girl, Virginia Roberts, about Prince Andrew, it was all over the press in the UK. And so there was a ruling by the judge here in Florida that she was not going to be allowed to add herself to this litigation. What this litigation is, this is a lawsuit against the U.S. federal government and their victims' rights division, because the victims in this case, who everyone acknowledges are victims, Virginia Roberts, the judge acknowledges that Virginia Roberts is a victim. She's already received the settlement from Epstein civilly. Plus, Epstein's been convicted of being a convicted sex offender. But what happened was, they're trying to get the plea negotiations unsealed, because Jeffrey Epstein got this sweetheart plea negotiation, and they never consulted with the victims about this. The victims didn't even find out about this. They read about it in the paper. No one told them. The DAs never, the prosecutors never told them. So when the judge ruled back in March that that these extra plaintiffs could not join the original litigation, these were the ones that were bringing in the name Prince Andrew and bringing in the name Alan Dershowitz. So now when they were detached from this litigation, everyone in the UK said, see, Prince Andy's been cleared. Her case has been thrown out of court. She's cleared. But that's not what happened at all. The litigation continues. The judge even said that these other victims, they can file their own litigation, or they can be witnesses. They just can't be added as plaintiffs to this case, which is fine. Then the judge rules that the plaintiffs won. The plaintiffs have won that case as of today. They have to unseal all of the discovery and the plea negotiations in that case. By the way, all his alleged co-defendants were given immunity. Okay? And one of his co-defendants was this woman, Ghislaine, I think Roberts. Not Ghislaine. Anyway, she's the daughter of this big shot guy in the UK, this big shot tabloid guy in the UK who has his own scandals. So this chick, even after, and there's allegations too that she has child pornography on her phone, she has child pornography on her computers. She was given immunity, and after Epstein, this was Epstein's girlfriend, after Epstein was convicted, she attended Chelsea Clinton's wedding with Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton.
Well, of course, she's going to know that she's been on the phone with him, right?
Yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell, that's her name. And her father is this guy, Robert Maxwell, who has his own scandals over there in the UK where he stole a bunch of money and all this stuff. Yeah, so but I'm talking about, you would think that the Clintons would disassociate themselves with this woman who has these allegations of being procuring children for sex, you know? But no.
They never disassociate themselves with people, no matter how bad they get.
Yeah, they don't have to.
Well, they just associated themselves with imposter.
That's true. That would be true. So we're coming up to the top of the hour, where I'm hoping that we can start going a little free-form and maybe talk about a little current issue. If you guys want to do that sounds good to you. Good? You want to?
Yeah, I can.
So we had, first we had the latest with the Supreme Court asking which of course, I guess most of us here would say that, that a choice people have. My point of view is, why are you asking the state to give you a privilege, or why are you asking the state to turn a right into a privilege? What do you guys think?
I got a lot of friends that are real hardcore Christian conservatives. They're all upset about this. I'm a libertarian. And I would say, I think the way to solve this and use conservative states is that they just don't hand out marriage licenses anymore. There's a county in Alabama, the guy says, no, I'm not going to give a marriage license anymore. So nobody gets it. So it just becomes, marriage is is done between the church. The ministers marry people, and if you want to get a contract, sign up a prenup agreement or something like that. This may be a way to get the government out of marriage business.
You got something you want to add to?
No, I was just trying to end you here. I'll go on this topic. I think the thing that really upsets me about what's going on with this topic is, for years, I think ever since I was 18 years old and able to vote, this has always been turned into a political issue. This is a moral issue. This is a moral issue between individuals and them and their God. They're the ones that have to answer for their actions. And this Bible-thumping Christian movement that is turning this into a political movement to divide people, I think is completely wrong.
Yeah, it's a distraction from the real issue.
Right. It shouldn't be a political issue.
But, the Democrats and Republicans have to have something that they differ on. And, of course, gay marriage is one, and abortion is another. Just because everything else they do is the same, when it comes to war, taxation, and all these other important issues. They're the same, so they have these social issues that they can debate on. To make people think that, one side is better than the other.
Right, and I just find that, I get infuriated when I get on that topic, because it has nowhere in the political sphere, as far as I'm concerned. We shouldn't be going through this. We shouldn't be going through these debates and these arguments and letting it overboil like it is right now. I run a pretty large group, and it's almost starting to divide my group, when my group is actually very open as far as discussion. But this has even actually started to turn my group into a boiling point.
As designed to.
Yeah.
So how do you guys feel about the Confederate flag issue?
Another one, same thing. Who cares? But yeah, it makes it a big dividing issue. But that's it. Divide and conquer. That's the theory of the people that rule the world. It's just another way to divide people.
Well, I think that, because I have a lot of people in my group that are from the South, and I've talked to a lot of them. I've private messaged them. I've been trying to get insight and, insider stuff on really what's going on in the South. And the attitude of the people in the South is not and never has been that the flag is a racial issue. It's never been a racial issue with them down there. It's been a heritage issue. It's been about the South. No matter if it's black, white, Hispanic, Indian, it doesn't matter. It's about the South. And they still, so even right now, with this issue going on, people that I know very well that are on the ground there, like my son's one of them, there is no political issue down there. This is all being blown up in the media. This is not actually blowing up on the ground, though. In pockets it might be, but it's not blowing up on the ground like it's saying to me. Our black friends
alert walk on both sides, died on both sides. So this is an issue. It's not an issue. It's something that's why they're trying to do it.
My purpose is that you got a really bad home, it was really hard to hear you, but I caught most of what you said, and I agree. I live in the South as well, and I haven't seen that big of an uproar. Maybe we'll see more come next weekend when NASCAR fans show up and find out that they can't fly their bars and stripes anymore, and I don't know. Maybe we'll learn more at that point. I'm kind of curious to actually see if numbers will go down because of that.
I think there's more people boiling over because of the removal of the flag than there are people that are upset because of the flag. It's everybody I've talked to is like it's a non-issue.
I don't disagree. It's the same that I've had pretty much as well.
I always put a flag on the stage before they set up, and I prefer that flag that wear that flag only for the flag. They don't want you to send it to them. I mean, it shouldn't be that big of an issue to take ads off and say private. I mean, the next step really is they can't have a person. It's a little bizarre taking it off of Amazon, off of eBay, and off of all these online stores. You know, dating is and they're trying to raise money out of it, but it's really not working for them. Or hoping not to support the store purposes of it. What do you guys think?
What do you guys think about the fact that report? Sorry, we're getting internet back. Okay, what do you guys think about the report that has come out that Amazon, Walmart, and eBay have actually been told by the federal government to stop selling the flag? They're blaming it on the federal government to protect their own business because apparently it's really affecting your business right now. Do you think that's a possibility? I mean, I tend to believe it.
Yeah, make your you want some Confederate flags, make them more valuable.
Indeed it does. Yeah, indeed it does. But, you got the entrepreneurs out there. You got any women out there that work from their home and they can sew. There's a business because the people want it. I mean, this divide and conquer attitude across the country is getting really kind of ridiculous because everything they've tried so far has failed. The people have been standing together. And we're watching mainstream media fall every day. Every day their numbers are falling and collapsing. MSNBC is about to go off the air. I mean, they just don't have the viewership. So there's an impact going on out there. Because it's up to us as kind of leaders of groups and YouTubers and to get the information out there that what the truth really is and stop repeating the rhetoric that the mainstream media is putting out there. Instead, do independent investigations and interviews with locals in the area to really get the truth out about how the locals and the attitudes of the locals really feel about what's going on right now. I think that would be a bigger impact than regurgitating the mainstream media news and causing this panic and, across the southern states especially.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I'm sorry, I'm having problems with my mic, guys. Just keep on letting me know.
Sounds good, man.
All right, thanks.
Move over. That's just awesome.
Check the mic out.
Is that something you wanted to add, Mother? Nope, just change your mind. Okay. Well, I guess I don't know. Anybody else have anything else they want to add? Would you like to keep going for the next hour?
Well, we have more information coming in on Charleston shooting. I did that video after we approved Charleston stage, and then I did another one more approved Charleston stage. And so the more information coming out on that. What did I add? Well, I added the thing about the training that was going on for from the federal government. And I showed the shadows a little bit better. What I did is I showed the sun coming up from the east and going down in the west, and how the shadows should have looked in that parking lot. So those shadows were definitely taken at about midday. That shot, when he was supposed to be coming into the church at 8:16 in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
Shadows prove it, that it was really midday. It looked like it was a cloudy day. The shadows weren't very sharp, but the sun was definitely almost pretty overhead at the time. Of course, you can't get that at 8:16 at night. And then the timestamp, some people said the timestamp date was wrong. It's not. It was correct. It's 17th of July, 7:15. Then it said 8:16. And I think that was a mistake because they were saying it was supposed to be 8:16 in the morning. Well, 8:16 in the morning would have been 20:16, or it would have been 8:16 p.m. Mm-hmm. So they seem to have gotten the timestamp wrong. But I think the picture was taken, and then the timestamp was actually put on the picture afterwards to try to convince people that was actually them entering the church at 8:16 in the evening. And the shadows prove that it's on, of course. And any other things on my video, of course, I showed that the bulletproof vest that he was wearing.
I was going to ask about that as well.
Yeah.
Have we gotten any official police reports released yet? On this incident?
I know of, and I've never seen anybody mention that bulletproof vest. You can see it under his shirt, and then, of course, he's got the scale hanging out.
Right, in the front. And that's what I'm curious. I'm curious if there's a police report that reported that he entered the church wearing a bulletproof vest, because again, it was never mentioned in the media.
Well, yeah, and that's what makes the whole story ridiculous, too, is because, they said that they were accepting him into the group before he went out there and killed everybody. Well, come on, the guy was, you're sitting right next to the guy. He's got the tail hanging out of his book. You can see it through his shirt. You're going to be suspicious, and of course, it looks like, some kind of ultra that happened. You're going to think, well, wait a minute, there's definitely something wrong with this guy. You might just kind of be, come on within our fellowship here, you're the wife with a bulletproof vest on. So, the typical story is full of holes. And it's in my new one, I showed you how happy these people are. They're just celebrating these relatives of the victim.
If I could play devil's advocate just for 1 second, and the only reason why I'm going to say that is it brings back memories of a case back in, I believe it was in the 90s, of a mother who was accused of, I think, killing her 2 young boys. And they sent I believe it was a private investigator to follow her. And when she went to their gravestones one day, her sister or sister-in-law, talked her into putting up balloons and spraying silly string and this and that. And they filmed this and showed it to the jury, which actually, I believe, helped sway to have her convicted. Do you remember any of that, Ed?
Yeah, I do remember that. She was convicted, yeah.
But haven't they recently overturned her conviction? because they were able to play the entire tape and actually show you how she was reluctant to spray the can and then that kind of stuff. Is that not correct?
I don't know if the conviction was overturned or if it was because of that. That was Darlie Routier. That was the case. She was accused of, I think it was killing one of her kids. But as far as I know, she's still in prison.
I just remembered that. But I agree with you. You see it with a lot of these cases that you have people sitting there and they're happy. Is it just good editing and they're just editing all the sadness out? You would think not, because if you want people to feel the person's pain and to really feel the emotions that they would be feeling, you would think that they would want to show those emotions. But yet, they go with the whole choose love. They forgive the people in less than 24 hours of what they've done. And all they remember are the big things. They don't... I'm right there with you.
Yeah. I look at these things, as sort of a source. There's rituals. And, I've been following a lot of the rituals, the ceremonies, rituals, and various movies, all these things, some of them are tied together. They'll all have these red candles that they show, and these are events that happen on Tuesdays. And so this shooting allegedly happened on a Tuesday. But I went through and looked, and I expected to find red candles, and I didn't. Found white candles. And the white candle is a different kind of ritual. It's for cleansing and purity and innocence. And and that's what we got from this one. We didn't have Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton organizing marches and rallies, and we didn't have the provocateurs coming in, to bust out windows and everything like we did in some of these other events that we've had, like Ferguson and stuff. We didn't have that, and what we did have was forgiveness, and where all of the victims' relatives seem to follow that same script that forgive the killer, and so it was a different kind of ritual than what we're used to.
Well, can I say something? Because you got to remember, in Ferguson and in the Freddie Gray case and these other cases where people rose up in the streets, is because they were killed by cops. It was an oppressive, occupying force that the people were fed up with, so they reacted to that. And also too, I'm a Christian. I've been involved in many Christian funerals, and people are like that. People are they celebrate the person's life. Because with our feeling is that when you're absent from the body, you're present with the Father. You're in heaven immediately after a second after you're dead. So these people are happy for their relatives that are now in heaven. So I got no problem. This thing about the whole thing about these YouTube videos where people say, "Well, I don't like their reaction," I don't know, man. I've dealt with a lot of people. I'm 53 years old. A lot of people, and people's reactions are they differ. Sometimes people laugh and giggle at inopportune times. If you catch it on tape, it's caught on tape. What are you going to do? So I don't put any weight into that at all. Very little. That people's reaction kind of stuff. Say, well, they don't look like they're mourning. Because definitely Christian funerals, people don't mourn. They call it a celebration, or a passing ceremony. They don't really consider it to be a sad event.
I didn't include any of that about the ritual in there because some of the things didn't tie together. So when the ritual of German Wings and various movies and then the Fall Earthquake, everything tied together. So it was all red candles. It was all done on Tuesdays. Everything worked out really good for that. But this one didn't because this was done on a Tuesday, but they still used the white candles, which means that the white candles, I think, should have been something on a Monday. And then the moon should have been strong. And it was actually it was a new moon at the time. So it didn't work out. But, I don't know that much about all this, the hocus pocus. involved.
We had a question from one of our other panelists who's not with us tonight, Odin Rock. And his question was, why were there 4 ministers at the church on a Wednesday night prayer meeting? Is that the second standard for 4 ministers to be there, or would it, or do you think those titles were misconstrued and there's really only, because I know most churches only to have one pastor or minister, but then again they would have alternate or.
Well, okay, I can tell you. Let me give you a little background here. I was actually I spent many years as an evangelist with a tent ministry, where I traveled around the country with a tent ministry, and we would go to a town and we would form a coalition of different churches. So I've been in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of churches. My daughter today, she's interning as a youth leader for her church. So it's totally not unusual to have many pastors present or ministers. You know, you have one pastor, then you have associate pastors, you have pastors for different departments, youth pastor, children's pastor, men's ministry pastor. You get all these different departments as well. And some churches love to give out that title. They give out, everyone's a deacon, you know. I've been to churches where every single member of the church was a deacon, you know. So, but this was a pretty big church down there too. So, and I'm sure there's, since this guy was also a senator, I believe, right? Or a congressman, something? Yeah, I'm sure that they gave out that, it was very prominent to give out that kind of title at this church. So probably there's a lot of guys there that were called pastor or minister or deacon.
That's what I kind of figured.
Yeah.
But it was a question that was posed.
If I may, I'd like to ask Ed a question. When it comes to forensic evidence on videos and photo images, I'll give you a little, what happened with the other day. As one of these funerals was taking place, an image came up on mainstream media. I copied and saved the image, and I sent it to a friend of mine. And then to see if he could do a little bit of an analysis on it, you know, because there was something on that photo I wanted to find out if that was a watermark, whether it belonged there, if it was added, or what was going on. And this is what he sent back to me. He said, and I'll quote what he said, "It's been sent into Photoshop multiple times and all the DXF data has been removed. DXF is all the camera data visually attached to every photo. Date, time, camera model, and everything has been erased. He says, someone went through a lot of trouble to hide all the information, Terry. That's all I know, dear." So when you're doing forensic examinations on stuff that you can, I mean, obviously you can't get your hand on the original photograph or the original footage at times. Do you run into this kind of problem when you're trying to, you know, forensically break down and examine photographs or videos?
I am personally not an expert on photo enhancement or digital image enhancement. I do have a whole bunch of old, I got the Lucius Pro, I got the Visor software, I got all that stuff. We've had it for years. So I'm familiar with using it. But I'm definitely not, I'm not qualified enough to testify in court over that. They'd make a fool out of me. However, you know, if I had to do that, I have guys that can do that for me. And I'm currently right now in negotiations with a big forensic company that we're going to be partnering up together with. They have a ton of guys that do that. But I'll tell you this, a lot of this stuff, like the dates being wrong in the Google cache and stuff like that, that stuff happens all the time. Even in cases that have nothing to do with these hoaxes and that people are doing all these investigations on. That kind of stuff happens constantly. You run across all kinds of errors and dates being wrong. In the Casey Anthony case, the well-meaning guys, you know, digital forensic investigators were testifying that she searched for the term chloroform 84 times. And everyone knew that was impossible. It was just ridiculous. And it came out later on that, yeah, it was a glitch in the software. So there's a lot of stuff like that out there that people seem to take as smoking guns. But it's really not, because you see it all the time.
Right. Well, I'm going to pop this image into the Skype window for Brian and see if he'll pop it up, just because I think this is kind of important.
I'll look for it.
Okay. once you guys go ahead and, there's a few images that there's 3 images I'm gonna pop in and have them pop up and show you. I just find it very interesting. So you guys continue and I'll mute out while I get these loaded.
Art, if you have anything you'd like to promote while she's doing that?
Yeah, just I really think that the shadow is the smoking gun, because that just doesn't overlook the story at all. That he entered that church about noon, and then the shooting started at 9 o'clock in the evening. I think that really is the one thing that I know is most convincing, but the story doesn't want.
I think what bizarre to me is his arrest video.
Oh, yeah. The cops
I mean, approaching the car with their guns not drawn. I mean, they put him away, and then taking him to eat after they arrested him. I mean, that's really bizarre. Wherever has that happened? Come on.
I gotta tell you, that stuff is not that unusual either. You know, I've heard plenty of stories like that, and also too about taking something to eat, because if you're going to interrogate the guy later on, you want to have a good rapport with the kid, you know. And obviously they probably saw him right away and saw he wasn't up to right, or maybe he had his hands up on the steering wheel or up on the windshield or what. He was taking a piss, you know. It was probably, you know, so that kind of stuff. I don't know. I need way more than that before I start jumping to conclusions that everything's fake.
I've got your first picture. Is that okay?
I'm good. Sorry. I got a little later. Okay. This is of course the funeral of the supposed representative. Still making a big deal about the sheriff and everything being there, but if him being a government official, of course sheriffs are going to be there at a funeral, so I don't buy that. But if I could take your attention to the upper right-hand corner, where it says ETV, that's the forensic part of this that I wanted to look at. Is that a watermark? Is that something that was on that window back there? Under there's two more. The other 2 images. There's several images I have of this, but I have the report that he sent me that examined this photo to find out if ETV, and this is the picture that was scrubbed so much that he couldn't even hardly. He said it's been sent through Photoshop so many times. And this is supposed to be a live shot on mainstream media on the internet that came out as that funeral was happening. So how in the heck did they scrub it that many times through Photoshop?
Well, how'd you get the picture?
I was following the story that morning, and when it came up, I just noticed that ETV, so I immediately copied and pasted it off the website.
You did like
I copied and pasted it.
You took like a screenshot,
Yeah.
and then how you saved it to what? Your clipboard?
I just saved it to my desktop, and I've got it in a folder.
She didn't take a screenshot. She right-clicked the image and did a save it.
Saved on the image. Right. This was not a video. This was a photograph that a mainstream media website published about the funeral. I think it was a Fox News channel or something. And this was their story, breaking story that just came out minutes before about the funeral. They posted like 8 pictures or something like that, and it was just posted because the funeral was still ongoing. And so at this one, I saw that ETV, so I right-clicked and saved the image. And then this is the image I saved from their website that's supposed to be live, as it's happening. But my friend that said it, let me send Brian the other 2 photos, because this is the forensic stuff that my friend found on this that says this is what this image has gone through. Here's the first one, Brian. and here is the second one. This is the tracer on this image, and this image, when I captured it, was almost live. So why was this image, how was this image sent through Photoshop? Please don't post the image or the name on that if you don't have to. Brian?
The name on what?
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure what, I'm just showing you.
Okay, that's fine. No, I thought it was coming up with my connection name on it. But this is, these are all the different Photoshop.
Oh, there it is. Okay. If I click on that, can I see it? Okay.
That was supposed to be a live image.
I'm going to screw this up. Did I lose you guys? Oh. Oh, well, I thought I saw the picture and I tried to click on it, but I guess that wasn't it. But anyway. Well, the thing is, he must be. Okay, is this what you're talking about? Yeah. The thing is, if he's talking about it going through Photoshop, that would have to be after you saved it to your computer, or because this was a live image on a computer screen.
It was not a live image. It was a story that broke, and it was only about 10, 12 minutes old.
Okay.
When I captured it from the mainstream media. So it was a brand new story, not a video, a brand new story with images about this funeral. As soon as it came up, I copied and pasted some of these pictures.
Gotcha.
Because some of them didn't make sense to me. So I immediately captured some of these photos. I saved them because I wanted to examine the photos. And so I sent the photos to my friend, and he traced what he could on the background, and it was almost immediate. I mean, he answered me within 5 minutes. And this was the tracer that he found on these photos. It had been run through Photoshop many times before the funeral.
Before the funeral.
Well, you only can think it to be before the funeral because it was within 12 minutes of the actual live report of the funeral photos supposedly coming out. These were like live pictures coming in on the website of this ongoing funeral of this representative.
Are you saying they were still shot?
Yes, they were still shot, but they were coming in like a still shot as the funeral was progressing and going on that morning. They were uploading them onto their site. And I was capturing them as they were loading them.
Okay, but from the time that they took the shots to the time they uploaded it to the website, they could have run it through Photoshop to add those little graphics, like you said, with the little TV station on it.
Right. But he said there's several tracers that, if you look at the report, it's been run through Photoshop many times.
Are there date stamps on there? What times it was run through Photoshop?
He said there's date stamps, the camera stuff, all that. He said somebody went through a lot of trouble to clean the background of those images up. And this is only 10 or 12 minutes into the funeral. This is kind of live shot as the funeral was happening. I have all the captures and all the stuff. I just don't know where to go with it from here. Do you understand what I'm saying? I could see them running it through Photoshop, to put their watermark or whatever on it. But when we're only talking a few minutes, and supposedly this is a live funeral going on, and they're updating live photos from the funeral, and I'm capturing them as they're kind of hitting the internet.
Okay, but you're setting your... Right. But then, so your theory then is that these pictures were taken before the funeral, like days before or hours before, and then were prepared and then put up?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. Yeah, I believe so, because as I was capturing them, they could not have possibly run through Photoshop and done all they did within the length of time as I was capturing them as they were being posted live.
How many minutes?
10 to 12 minutes.
I think it's good.
Well,
Just to play devil's advocate, if the network that was monitoring the feed was privy that the feed was going to be live beforehand, they could have been monitoring it with some type of recording device on the other end, recording the stream. They could have possibly snapped a screenshot from there and then run it through their Photoshop program to add their logo, which I do agree the logo is in a weird place.
Well, if you go look up that logo,
The ETVI,
ETV, and then look at that particular logo with that body there and the stars going around it. Just Google the image.
But
Then check it out.
you know, one more thing too is they got more than one producer working on these photos and stuff like that. It could have been passed back and forth between like 10 producers, you know, each making their own little changes and, you know, whatever, doing, who knows,
Yeah.
you know?
I agree. The part of the topic we were talking about was, you know, part of forensic examination and stuff like that. That's why I thought I'd throw it at you. You know, I mean, that was an awfully pretty funeral. You know, I mean,
Well, okay, but then, but we know that there were dead bodies in the funeral because they had open caskets. People walking past them.
okay, well, I can't go into that, but I mean, I can tell you something right now that would blow everybody's mind, but I can't get this person to come forward. I cannot get her to come forward. She's scared to death. But she was on scene.
so that would be interesting because at this point this is people
She's scared to death. So,
then, you know, we just have to go with what we have.
right.
The only thing I saw interesting about that image was just where the logo was.
It's got four or something.
Right, it's in a really odd place. I tried to do a quick search, but I just hope we did have enough time to sit on there and try and dig that up and talk about this at the same time. It seems that we've lost one of our panelists, and I'm not sure if he had to go or if he had an connection problem. But he seems to have dropped out. Robert Price, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, well, I was going to ask something kind of similar because what I'm working on at the minute is trying to figure out whether an image has been photoshopped or not. Got to do with an email that I believe is from Phil.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
You have it ready.
well, no, I don't have the image ready and I'd rather not broadcast it live on air because it's kind of like
Okay.
under investigation at the minute, but I was wanting to ask Ed if he needs to go on that sort of thing, but it's already been answered for me in the last question.
Yeah.
Emailed these business inquiry lines to find out, but I'm pretty positive it's a photograph image, it's a fake email.
Okay. Ed, did you understand that? Good. Did you, have you seen an email from him by any chance?
No, I haven't. What email did you send it to?
Your business inquiry email.
Okay. No, I definitely did not get this. My business is emailrevealer.com or oppermaninvestigations.com. And so if you send any PI-related emails to me, it should go to either emailrevealer.com or oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. A lot of people send stuff to the Opperman Report, the radio show, and so anything you send over there, a lot of people see those emails. And we got people in there, all different people, go in there and upload videos and upload, YouTubes, and we got the Google Drive in there. That's what we use to run the show. So if it's anything you want to talk about with the business, it's over to Email Revealer or Opperman Investigations. And if it has anything to do with the show, send it to Opperman Report at gmail.com or to the Opperman Report website. It's two totally different setups.
Okay, well, good.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's been photoshopped. I just need to say it.
Well, with that, anybody else have any other questions for our guests?
Actually, I do. I don't know if anybody's seen a Clive video where he made the connection with Alana Simmons to Obama. Apparently, the realtor that she worked for, Keller Williams, was a big contributor to Obama's campaign in 2008 and 2012, or was it 2012? Yeah, both times, and that the owner, Keller Realtor, was also given an ambassadorship to him. And if you look at this video, really very interesting. It's for
And what, he was in the church?
Yes, the ex-senator that died, his granddaughter is Alana, and she works for Keller Williams Realty. And Keller Williams Realty was a very large contributor. I think it was like 200,000, 500,000 to Obama's campaign in 2008 and 2012, and also an ambassadorship.
Well, yeah, but that local Keller Williams, because Keller Williams is nationwide. They're all over the country. So you
The owner of the company.
got the owner of the company was killed, or the owner of the company got the ambassadorship?
The owner of the company got the ambassadorship.
Yeah, there's nothing unusual with that.
I don't know. I do think it's kind of odd. I mean, there's connections like that even with the Sandy Hook.
Well, Keller Williams is huge, though, because Keller Williams they were one of my property managers for me.
Well, I realize that
Yeah.
the realtor is huge. The section that she works for, I can't exactly remember, but the realty section that she works for is for a common section in her area. I just recommend watching the video rather than me trying to explain the real connection.
So you just wanted to watch a particular video? What's the name of that video? So you can find it.
I put it in, it's in the chat. His name is WISE. And the title is SC Church Shooting Hope, Obama Connection Statement.
So does anybody else have any other questions or anything you'd like to say before we wrap it up?
Actually, I do have a question about Walmart and Walton.
Okay.
If you think they have any kind of major connections with the Dave Helm that's going on?
Oh, no, and I don't buy that at all. None of that stuff about the tunnels under Walmart and stuff like that. I even spoke to a Walmart not the Walmart, the Walmart Union people, because I've done a bunch of Walmart shows. And the guys from the Union there in that town where one of those Walmarts were closed down, those were all Walmarts where they were organizing. So I think they were shut down to shut down the unions. I don't believe any of that stuff about tunnels under Walmart, or and even Jade Helm. Listen, the real big reason that I'm convinced is because if you listen to my show and some of the people I talk to, like Black Panthers and like a lot of my guests have been in prison. They've been in prison for their activism and for, resisting. And none of these guys are worried about Jade Helm. No one's even talking about it. So, these are the guys who are going to get rounded up if the crap ever hits the fan. The only people I see talking about it are just these guys with these YouTube videos, just trying to, with all rumor and bizarre speculation. There's nothing, in my opinion. And I got to tell you, it's too, a lot of these sources, I've met a lot of these people behind the scenes, off the air, and I just don't find them to be credible sources and credible people. The whole, one of the radio stations I was on, Revolution Radio, I've been in their YouTube channel and saw the what are all these things called? The tags, the titles and the tags. And it's all stuff about apocalypse and end of the world and end of times and meteors. It's all doomsday bullcrap that everybody's pushing and selling. And I think it's all just for hype and ratings and get people all titillated and excited. I don't see these people with any credibility at all. Yeah.
I just thought it was, to me, it's the oddity of somebody with a Walmart closing up at the same time. It's the same issue.
Yeah, and like I said, I talked to the guys, the Walmart organizers, the union organizers, and they said that these were Walmarts where the unions were active, and that's why they think that Walmart shut them down. I think these guys would know. Because they're into... I interviewed that guy that wrote the book about Walmart. He's the biggest anti-Walmart guy there is. I hate Walmart. you know? Oh, my God.
Really, they say they don't, but they do. And they do it here where I live, on all these little mom-and-pop type stores, just to no longer compete, and they have to close down.
Yeah, we call them welfare Walmart.
Well, right, because they get all kinds of subsidies. They don't pay taxes. The 6 members of the Walton family right now who never worked a day in their life and never created a job in their entire life today possess 40% of the wealth in this country. 6 people's wealth equals 160 million people's wealth. Okay? And it used to be that they only had 30%. And that was less than a couple of years ago. That was like 18 months ago that they had 30% of the country's wealth. So they've increased 10% in less than a year and a half. And it's not stopping. It's not slowing down. They're taking over. And you wonder why everybody's broke and people don't have jobs. It's because it used to be that you could make a living with a florist or a butcher shop or a hardware store, and now it's all put in one building, and these guys are getting paid $8 an hour. Yeah.
Well, we call it welfare Walmart here because, I have friends and family that work there. They don't have a choice, but they got less than 30 hours a week, between husband and wife, and they make too much money to get any stated the health insurance, but they qualify for food stamps.
Yeah.
That's why we call them welfare Walmart.
Definitely. Okay. Well, anybody else have any other questions or topics you want to talk about? Well, we still got about 15 minutes till the top of the hour. No? Well, then I guess we'll just wrap it up then. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening. I'd like to thank our panel members for joining us. Nodor, Brenda Price, Terry from Global News and Views, and Art Alvarez, how it's pronounced. I know you pronounce it, I'm sorry about that, from Operation Terror. And of course, our guest, Ed Opperman. Would you like to tell the people again where they can find you, how they can contact you if they need investigative work, and tell us of any upcoming interviews you're going to be doing?
Yeah, the PI website is called emailrevealer.com, and that's basically because it's formed around tracing emails and identifying people from emails. I just had a case right now. I just located a kid who was on Nancy Grace, an Amber Alert kid, that we were able to narrow them down. This kid is abducted by an adult sex offender, and we're able to kind of track them down using our emails. So the business website called emailrevealer.com. My business email is oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. The radio show is oppermanreport.com, and that's where the member section is. We got a whole bunch of great shows in there, all kinds of stuff. Did a show about the first school shooting in the 70s that the song I Don't Like Mondays came out about. We've had Henry Vincent in there, Confessions of a D.C. Madam. We got that Hank Harrison, Courtney Love's father. We got that interview in there, just went up. We have an interview with this woman who was involved in the phone hacking, the cell phone hacking scandal in the UK that brought down Rupert Murdoch. It's funny that I knew how to do that cell phone hacking too around the same time. because I was in a cell phone business and I was in a beeper business, and it's real funny because when people here in the United States learned how to do that cell phone hacking, where you could listen to people's voicemails, the people who found out, a couple of people who found out, was Lindsay Lohan and Paris Hilton. And they were calling up each other's cell phones at 3,000 times a day to listen to each other's emails. They had this big war going on, and a friend of mine owned the company with the spoofing cards, and he actually had to cancel their accounts because they were abusing the system so much. So here in the United States, you know, when we learn how to hack people's cell phones, Lindsay Lohan does it, and in the UK, they take down Rupert Murdoch and they hack into the Prince Royals over there. But who else do we have? A great bunch of stuff in the members section, okay? I got that show coming up this week. We have one with the guy who was being killed by Colonel Aquino. And there's another one. Oh, yeah, about the Casey Anthony case and that other girl, too, who's down there in Florida, those cases, with this guy, Timothy Holmseth, who's a fascinating guy. The FBI came down. They raided his office, all his investigative work he was doing. They took his computers. The last time he was on my show, they had an arrest warrant for him right after the show. So this guy's involved in everything. He's really a real muckraker. He's not taking any prisoners. On the Friday night show coming up, we got this guy coming up this weekend, this Friday. He's a former jewel thief. He used to rob jewelry stores. He went to prison for several years. Now he consults on people going into prison. And he has all kind of information about this Dannemora prison escape he wants to talk about. Coming up after that, I have one of the people who were living in Waco when the ATF attacked. And they survived the... Yeah. Well, we just had someone, too, from Jim Jones, too. It was down at the Jonestown, Guyana, and survived that. We had her on a couple of weeks back. And I got another Survivor-type show coming up. I forget what it is. And also, too, this woman who, she wrote a book about the activists back in the 70s who broke into the FBI offices and did a burglary job at the local FBI offices. And they uncovered the COINTEL program and discovered what was going on with that. So got a lot of shows, a lot of good shows, Friday night shows coming up.
Awesome. So you guys don't forget to check out some of those shows, show some support for that. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank everybody in the chat room who stuck around with us. Thank you again for your support, and we will catch you guys next week. Until then, keep resisting. Good night. And we're